What's up everybody, Jose Ortiz here from PetRockMedia.com, back again with another video, and we finally have the official announcement from Sony about the brand new ZV1 that they are touting the ultimate vlogging and YouTube camera. Let's talk about the specs and let's see if it lives up to the hype. What's up everybody, Jose again here with PetRockMedia. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing by punching that red button and smashing that bell icon so you'll be notified each and every time we post videos on this channel or go live. So in recent days, I've been making videos about the upcoming Sony ZV1 camera, and now we finally have the official announcement from Sony. Now there's plenty of other YouTubers out there that are going to go over some super in-depth technical specs about ISO range, about detail, and how focused sharp it is from certain distances. We're not going to cover that here. Unfortunately, I don't have a camera right now with me. This camera is still taking pre-orders. I'm not lucky enough to get a pre-production model, but what I have done is kind of separated the pros and cons, and I'm going to give those to you now and whether or not I would recommend this camera. Now, having filmed quite a few videos on this channel with my trusty Sony RX100 Mark V, which I will show you right here, this little camera is an incredibly powerful, compact, portable, fits in your pocket camera that shoots 4K video, that has a range of 20 to 70 millimeters, f1.8 to 2.8, has a pretty decent ISO range, and overall just a great quality travel camera. The new Sony ZV1 is aimed to take over this particular camera in certain areas to provide you with a better vlogging and YouTube experience. Now keep that in mind because that is something that I'm going to keep bringing up as we go along. Now the ZV1 brings a welcomed addition to the flip screen, and that is instead of flipping upward like the Sony RX100 Mark V, 6 and 7 do, and instead has a screen that flips outward, similar to other camera bodies out there, Canon, Panasonic, you name it. Now me personally, I never found it an issue to have the screen flip upward versus to the side, but I do know that that was something that the camera community had been wanting, and thus Sony listened. Which is great, the fact that us as consumers can influence directly a camera manufacturer to provide a feature that we're wanting. One thing that this little guy does is overheat. If you're filming out in the elements, this camera will overheat in 4K mode a little after 4.5 to 5 minutes of continuous recording. Now, while some may find that as odd, or some may find that as a non-issue because they only record in certain small little clips, that's totally fine. But for some of us who utilize this for a lot more than just small clips and do long talk interviews or anything like that, then that presents an issue if you're wanting to film in 4K. The Sony ZV1 gets rid of that issue and allows you to record at a pretty hefty length until essentially your battery dies, or if you're utilizing the USB power, until your memory card dies. With a caveat: if you're out in the elements and it's really hot, and some YouTubers have already experienced this, after about an hour or so, it will shut off. So if you're outside, it's a pretty hot day, summer's coming, and you're utilizing this camera to capture moments, you may run into overheating and the camera's completely shutting down. Now there is an option in menu to turn off overheating shut off. By default, it will shut off after about 5 to 7 minutes, but there is an option in there for you to turn this off, which is pretty incredible on Sony's part, but still it will overheat and it will manually shut off if it gets incredibly hot, which some YouTubers have found and some testers have found as well. Now, an issue that may not be massive for most of you out there, and especially if you're coming from the RX100 line, but I do have to say that this camera still has one of the biggest irks with me, and one of the biggest kind of just overall design flaws that Sony should have corrected with this camera is the fact that if you are using the tripod mount on the bottom of the new camera or even the older cameras, you cannot open your battery compartment to get to your memory card or your battery, which is a concern and which is a major issue, because if at any point you want to swap out the battery or if you want to swap out the memory card, you have to completely take off your quick release plate, which kind of is counterproductive considering you call it a quick release plate. You have to unscrew it, take out the memory card, then put back your memory card or a fresh battery, close it, and then screw back on your quick release plate. Now for some of you this may be a deal breaker, but it is something that if you're coming from this line, you've kind of already lived with it and become accustomed to it, but still it is a major pain. Now getting a little bit more technical, this has a 20.1 megapixel BSI CMOS sensor. It shoots 20 frames per second, which if you're coming from this camera, you've known to love that fast picture mode that you can get with these little cameras. Now one thing they have removed on the ZV1 that these cameras still have is that flip up screen. They've gone away with that and now obviously have that flip out screen, and they no longer have the pop-up EVF. One also thing that is missing is a pop-up flash, which again, if you're using this for video mode primarily, which this camera is seeming to be catered towards, you're not worried about the pop-up flash. Now this camera does go back to the much more popular, in my opinion, the 24-70 version of the mounted lens on this camera. What I mean by mounted is that it's flush, it's on there, you can't take this off, it's not interchangeable. It is 24-70, however, just like this, the moment you get out of the 24mm wide range, it almost immediately goes to 2.0, and then once you get to about 33, 34, it goes right to 2.8. So it's nice open wide to be at 1.8, wide open at 24mm, but you lose that pretty quickly. Now, one thing that other camera manufacturers are starting to come out with is almost built-in capturing to utilize their cameras as webcams. Sony is releasing some beta software that's going to ultimately turn their cameras into webcams for streamers and things like that. This camera does not have the feature out of the box, but what I'm hearing from Sony, and it should come out sometime in summer, is that they're going to release some software that allows you to plug this camera in direct USB and have it act as a webcam on your camera. So we'll wait and see. Hopefully summer 2020, sooner than later, we'll have that feature and we'll have that software downloaded so we could test it out. Now, although I don't have a camera to test, what I've been seeing from other YouTubers is that this camera has some pretty decent image stabilization within the camera. There are some tests out there pitting it against an A6600 and this internal lens, and from what I can see, it is pretty smooth. Now, it's not going to be gimbal smooth, but it is still pretty smooth right out of the box. Again, this camera is touted towards vloggers and YouTubers, so this camera is going to have some pretty killer inside features. Now, along with that is some amazing autofocus, eye autofocus particularly. Sony has kind of crushed the market in that area, and this camera is no different. It does have some pretty amazing eye detection autofocus from what I've been seeing. Now, while the internal mics on this camera are pretty decent, it still doesn't match the ability to add an external mic to be able to add that better quality to your video. But again, from what I've been seeing and what I've been hearing, the internal microphones are pretty decent. In my opinion, definitely better than some of the quality I can get off of this camera. They'll do out of the box, but you'll definitely want to invest in either a lavalier mic or a shotgun mic. Now comes the million-dollar question. Do I recommend this camera, and will I be purchasing this camera personally and upgrading from my trusty Sony RX100 Mark V? And the answer is maybe. At this price tag of $749, which is $50 off its anticipated price. Right now they're running some type of promotion, which is kind of weird since the camera isn't readily available. They're running a $50 instant rebate, so the camera starts at $749.99. Now, what it can do is pretty phenomenal for such a small price tag. However, some of the features on there, I'm not too sure if it's worth, for me personally, upgrading. I'm already comfortable with my setup here of, if I need better audio, to have a lavalier mic plugged into my cell phone. It's always there, and I use the Rode recording app, and I just have my lavalier on there, and it makes a pretty decent audio capture from that. And then I just combine them in Premiere and sync the audio, and everything's good as gravy. Now, while there are some pretty awesome features, such as there's this one that instantly blurs the background with just a quick button press, still, little things like that are more of a gimmick in my opinion, and it doesn't really help in my current situation. And in my current YouTube studio, where everything is controlled, I really don't need that particular feature. But that is something out there as well. So again, maybe. I'm still gonna do a little bit more research. Right now, I'm not gonna be rushing out to pre-order. Again, if you're on an older camera, or let's say you've been wanting to get into the YouTube game and the vlogging game, and you wanna get a really, really good compact camera that doesn't really break the bank. At $749, I can't think of really too many options that are this compact, this portable, that can literally fit in your pocket and take with you and capture some pretty stunning images and pretty stunning video. But what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below. Will you be thinking about getting this camera? Have you already pre-ordered this camera? Or are you gonna stick with what you got right now because you just still haven't found that perfect vlogging / YouTube camera? Once again, guys, thank you for stopping by. Again, if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing, hitting that red button, and punching that bell icon so you're notified each and every time we post videos or go live. And I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.